I'm going to call this meeting to order. We're going to start with the work session. And Chief Jones, if we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Yes. Join me in the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States.
To the flag of the United States of America, to
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
All right, you know what, can you take the roll call, Chief Landcamer? Or would you like me to do it?
I can do it. I think. Board President Smith,
Present.
Vice President Dorman, here. Treasurer Ryan Leahy,
here.
Jeff Robbins.
Here.
And Director Tiffany Smith. Here. All present.
Thank you. All right, so I'll turn next to, well, we're doing a work session. I guess we're gonna do the work session before approving the agenda. We're gonna start with, makes sense?
Yeah.
So just gonna do that. So we're not taking action in a work session. So we'll go ahead and start with the work session and, first, before I say that we are obviously working on a new AV system. Evidently, I am the problem. Can you all hear me?
That's great.
Can you hear me when I sit back here? How about back here? Okay, so I'll sit like this. And if this, for some reason, doesn't work with, I mean, if everybody else, you can hear everybody else and now you can hear me and this works, just at some point after the meeting, let me know that so we don't have to go further investing in an AV system. And I will now turn it over to you, Chief Jones.
Okay, good, thank you. Well, in a world week, this is my beginning of the 5th week. So I feel like I've been here for quite a while. I've known, I knew some people to start with, and it's been a great experience. I have talked to, I'll bet I've talked to at least half the members of the department in one time or another, either in group sessions or individually. Certainly I've talked to our officers, and our day staff more than others, just because they're around a lot more. I've talked to the mayor, I've talked to the town administrator. I've talked to a number of other stakeholders up at the park and have a laundry list of others to talk to as well. And with that, I kind of came up with kind of a laundry list of projects or issues that I think need to be addressed in the next relatively short period of time. I put these in kind of 3 categories. Actions that I believe that we can complete during the interim period, which is probably the next 6 months or so, of which we're already a month in. Actions that we can start under this period of time, but it's probably gonna take work by the next permanent chief to move forward with some of those projects. As well as a number of other issues that have come up. A lot of issues have come up, but these ones seem to kind of float to the surface. Most every time I talk to somebody. That us?
That's me, but I don't think I can manage.
Okay.
Cap.
You're doing good. This list down here is part of the budget presentation. So this isn't part of this. We just have less places to put stuff. So we'll talk about this when we get to the budget presentation. Maybe what I'd like to do is kind of work from the big picture back, more of the detail. These are items that keep coming up over and over again as I've talked to just about everybody. Certainly, and this is in the packet. This table is in the packet, Patty. The first one is we had an experience with the strategic planning process here, I think earlier this year. I don't think it met anybody's expectations. It certainly didn't meet mine. I hope we didn't pay a lot of money for it, because I don't think it was an actionable plan. It had a lot of, I call it aspirational, good ideas, big picture, but really nothing that could hang your hat on move forward. So I've heard that time and time again. We do need to do some strategic planning, but need to do a strategic plan that's actionable. Things that actually lay out goals and objectives, timelines, projects, programs, costs and benefits, all of that kind of stuff. A big one that's come up over and over again is more of a long-term financial plan, especially as that relates to our relationship with the town of Estes Park. We get a portion of our funding directly from the town in the form of a percentage of their sales tax. Matter of fact, this is the second district I've worked for that has had that arrangement. In the other district, they have just phased out of that. And I think it's from what I've heard, the town is interested in talking with us and helping us move forward, maybe fully independently funding the district rather than from portion from the town. And I think that discussion's come up before, either with a mill levy or with a sales tax. Right now, our mill levy is very low. It's probably the lowest one that I know of anywhere. And for any district that has any paid staff at all, it's really low. And districts now are allowed under state statute to assess a sales tax. Several districts in the state have done that in recent months. Certainly utilization of Station 2, that's something that I picked up on right away. We have a fire station that's got a truck in it, but it's questionable how that works. So if we're really gonna make use of a second station, we need to figure out how to do that. Expansion of Station 1, that's come up several times. I think anybody that's walked out there in the bay knows that this station is really packed. I mean, when we had a fire here a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I noticed that when our firefighters were reloading the trucks with the SCBA type bottles, they couldn't hardly get the compartments open to get the SCBA bottles. Our firefighters have a very tight area to get their PPE on, their personal protective equipment. And that equipment is then subject directly to contaminants from the interior of the bed. Same thing with our workout equipment. Fortunately, we have exhaust systems on most of our trucks, but not all of them, and that really doesn't protect our firefighters, especially with the carcinogens that are in that stuff that's out there. Now, I think some of you may know that I actually had firefighter occupation related cancer a few years ago, so I have some experience with that myself. Certainly the training center, we've got a great little training center out there. It is kind of core of our really excellent training program that we have, which, you know, as I look around many volunteer organizations, and even a lot of paid organizations, our training system is better than most out there, even some paid systems. Certainly, if you don't have a training center, even if you have a paid fire department, if you don't have a training center, you don't have much of a training. And we have a training program in a training center. So that's a real strong point of our organization. But there is some opportunities for expanding that out there. I think there's been some preliminary talk with the county of doing some stuff next to there. The other one that keeps coming up is office consolidation. We have our staff, our paid staff split between two places. Obviously, we have some of us are here in this building and some over in the other building. And that other building is, I would say, not the greatest office space that I've seen out there. And it's really hard to to manage an organization when your staff is split up. It really gets to be, difficult to deal with. So that's something for the future. There's certainly a number of other things that are gonna pop up over here that I'll touch on. And as I go through these, certainly you can ask any questions or make any comments that you want. I have my red pen here. So I'll make notes directly on here. You may want to move stuff from one list to another. I think we have to be cognizant of the resources that we have to work with. I mean, we're short some people now as it is. I'm only gonna be here 6 months or so. So we need to not get in a situation, I believe, where we kind of overload or we do a few things well and not a whole bunch of stuff, not very well at all. So I think we have to be cognizant of that. There might be some projects, some things we just don't get to during the interim period. Maybe you don't even get started. It'll have to wait till the permanent chief gets here. So moving back, anybody have any questions on those? And there's probably more. Has anybody got any others?
The office consolidation, do we have a lease? And if so, do we know when that lease is up?
God,
In case that's a topic that we want to touch on earlier, sooner than later, so we don't have to sign a whole nother year lease if we don't need to.
We do have a lease. I would have to get back to you on when it expires. So my memory is it was for 3 years. But I'm not 100% sure. And we just renewed the lease when we moved from upstairs to downstairs. It went to a different owner. So those are condos over there. So we just did it last year.
Okay.
So we're not even probably a year into the new
Okay.
lease.
So it doesn't sound like we have anything pending that we
Yes.
gotta renew. Okay, anything else on this list? There's probably a whole bunch that you can think of. But, those are the ones that, in my assessment, came up over and over. Walking back, going to projects that I believe we can start within the next 6 months, will probably take more time than that. Certainly, we've had a lot of talk in the recent weeks about looking at our wildfire risk reduction program. Looking at how that is all working, has been in place. Some of it has been in place for 2 to 3 years, right?
Just a little over a year.
A little over a year, okay. Seems like 2 or 3
Seems
years,
like
probably some. We need to take a look at that. And that may generate some need for looking at some different approaches to do. I think some of you are aware that we are part of an award of a major federal grant, the Gateway to the Rockies, Protecting the Gateway to the Rockies Community Wildfire Defense Grant for $9.8 million, a five-year grant. That includes us, Glen Haven, the west side of Loveland, Masonville, Drake. And is there another one? Was there another player in there? There was all players.
Well, Storm Mountain, Pinewood area,
Yeah, is that in the Loveland piece?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's in the Loveland piece. But that is a big project. It's gonna have a lot of moving parts. John is our primary person on that. He's been working on that for the last year or so. This award actually came up about 2 months ago, but it didn't get finalized because of the government shutdown. And now the government shutdown is over. They're signing papers. There is a session of the Larimer County Commissioners tomorrow at 9 o'clock down in Fort Collins. John's gonna go to that and represent us. I may go down as well. And the county commissioners are gonna formally make the announcement on that grant. We don't have anything on our website on it. However, the Estes Valley Watershed Group has a bunch of information on their website. They just posted it just yesterday. So if you want to look at the maps and the projects, it's gonna have projects dealing with defensible space, large scale mitigation, education, a lot of the stuff that we're doing already, but on a much wider basis, all the way from here, all the way down to the mouth of Canyon. So it's a really big project. They have another grant exactly like this on the north half of the county in the Poudre River Basin. Poudre River, which I've been involved with for a couple of years. So big deal. Here in Larimer County, we're gonna have right at $20 million coming in for wildfire risk reduction work over the next 5 years. So really, really a big deal. And a lot of our folks, certainly John from our agency, has had a lot to do with getting that project going. Preparing for the wildland fire season. Again, that is something we do every spring. Chris I just saw him walk back there. He's probably doing something else. But every spring we spend time making sure that our firefighters are up to speed on their renewals and their refreshers and so forth, as well as some tactical training work. We were talking about some of that today as far as how we get ready for the wildfire season. I think we all know that the wildfire season is not really a wildfire season anymore. It's pretty much year round. However, most agencies start gearing up in the spring and it runs into the fall. And if we're lucky enough to have snow on the ground, that kind of gives us some time, but certainly here it is, the end of November, and we haven't had that yet. So, and I don't think there's any appreciable snow in the forecast. So it could be a while longer. We have talked a little bit about Sandy's been interested in this of creating another nonprofit type organization so people can donate to the organization for programmatic uses. We do already have a nonprofit set up that mostly benefits our firefighters, where people can donate money that directly support firefighters. So whether that would serve this need or not, we don't know. We gotta get the documents that originally set up the original one to see how that works. Justin's probably the guy on that, so I'll talk with him later on. A big one is our capital plan. That's something we gotta get going. John has put together pieces of a capital plan for several years. It's been in the budget, but it's never been funded. My understanding of the way that we fund capital here is we get to the end of the year and we see how much money is left over. And if there's money left over, it goes in the capital fund. And that recently has been in the range of 100 plus or minus. And that fund now has, I believe, about 450. Something like that. Well, we probably have, many more, we have tens of $1 millions of need over the next 10 years. For replacement of mostly apparatus in our light vehicles, not even, that doesn't even consider, our facilities. So that's a big deal. Fire districts that ignore their capital replacement needs tend to get in trouble. Because sooner or later, you got trucks that don't run, and if trucks don't run, you gotta replace them, which means if they're cost $1.5 million, you gotta come up with that $1.5 million pretty short notice, and that impacts everything else. So, that is one. John's done some work on it. Ron has done some work on it as well. I think the work that Ron just did on, I think projected about $350,000 a year over 10 years have to go into it. And I think that's not enough. Probably when you add it all together. So that's a big deal. The good news is, my assessment is that our fleet is in pretty good shape. I think our next truck to be replaced is 3 years out.
Yeah, engine 72, 2029.
So we're not too bad, even though trucks do take 3 years now to spec and to get, if you wanted it now, you'll see it 3 years. But it's a good thing that our fleet is not in imminent danger. But if we don't get going on a capital replacement plan and start funding it, 5, 6 years, 8 years are gonna go by, and then we're gonna be in trouble. Yes,
Do you pay for that truck on delivery or when you order it, or is there a percentage?
there's all kinds of different ways it's done.
It depends on the manufacturer and sometimes they want guarantee up front.
Sometimes they'll give you a discount. So you can pay them. And there's several different options. Obviously, there are lease purchase that can be done. There can be bonds. Some districts have been very successful in getting their voters to pass a mill levy specifically for capital replacement that lasts 10 years or something like that, that goes directly for capital replacement. And that's commonly done too. Lease purchase is commonly done, which is kind of like leasing a car. They pay for it over time. And then, a funded capital replacement fund is probably the most desirable, where you're putting enough money away every year. And it just perpetuates and keeps going in the future. My experience has been that it takes about 5 to 8% per year of operating budget to fund capital. And we're not anywhere close to that. We're maybe, 0.5% or 1%, something like that. So that's something for the future. We gotta deal with. It's not something that's barking down our back right now, but it's something we gotta keep on top. Volunteer reimbursement, LoSAP and pension. We need to take a look at those at some time. All those programs have been in place for a long time. Our volunteers give us tremendous service. They're absolutely dedicated, but sometimes they take money out of their own pockets to do the stuff that they do. And our reimbursement per call, I think, is $15, which is kind of low. I know up where I live, in the north part of the county, $35, $40, $50 is not uncommon up there. So we're kind of behind on that one. We do have the LoSAP program, which is a savings plan that based on your years of service, your rank in the department, and I think certification. Does that sound right? Give you a number, and that number generates $2,500 or $3,000 or X. And then that goes into a fund that builds till the time you leave, either retire or for whatever reason leave the department, that it gets paid out, right? So it's another kind of an incentive for volunteering. But those have been the same for, I think, for quite some time. So those probably need to be looked at. Over here is the longer list. And these are the things that we're working on right now. And actually, we've started up. Permanent fire chief, I think, is on the top of everybody's list. I would guess. As a matter of fact, subcommittee, Scott and Hippie met today. And we're gonna be posting the RFP, request for proposal, for a consultant to help us with that project. Hopefully get that posted tomorrow, Wednesday. And then get that firm selected before Christmas, and then get that project started in January. And then when that happens, for those that have not been involved in this process before, the consultant will come in, they'll come on site, they'll interview a lot of people, they'll review documents, they'll talk to the board, they'll talk to our firefighters, they may talk to some external stakeholders. And they'll kind of come up with a description of what the position is. They'll look at our job description. And they'll look at such things as what are the strengths of the organization? What are the challenges we have? What are we looking for in our next chief? And then they put that together in recruitment materials and then they send that out through their networks of recruiting. I think we've already identified that the committee, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think we identified two things that are really important above and beyond the normal fire chief stuff. One is we have to have somebody that respects, supports, and is an advocate for our traditional volunteer program. We gotta have that. After that is the strength of our organization here. We have a tremendous volunteer force. And we need to have a chief that is comfortable in that environment, managing that kind of environment and supportive and an advocate for it. There are some chiefs out there that'll say, oh yeah, I know all about volunteers, but not really. You know, so we need to look for that. The other one, and we talked about this morning, Hippie was quite emphatic about it, is we make sure we get somebody that is at least knowledgeable of wildfire. So not just wildfire response, but also all the risk reduction projects that are gonna be out there in the future, and they're gonna get to be more. The projects that we have now going on now are just the tip of the iceberg, just the beginning, of what we're gonna see over the next few years. So, permanent fire chief, admin and business operations, I don't think is anything that people don't know about here, but we've had a reduction by half of our administrative staff, and we're trying to deal with that. Miranda is working her heart out, lots and lots and lots. We need to take a look at that. We will be doing a administrative evaluation or assessment, probably the third week of December. Just contracted for that today. It'll be Colorado Resource Services who does this kind of work and does special district fire district management services. So they're gonna come in, they're gonna look at our administrative and business services, take a look at what we're doing, see where our holes are, give us some idea of where we ought to be for staffing with that, and help us along the road. Now, I think you're all aware that we do contract for some services. We contract with the JVG for some financial services we're seeing here. We also contract for our HR services, which is a big deal because HR is a big time sink, and you gotta do it right. Because if you don't do HR right, you can get into all kinds of problems. Interim Ops Division Management Plan, you're gonna be talking about that later on. Right now, we have a vacancy in operations right now, and that's our operations division chief. Again, our operations organization is running great. They're doing a good job. Our volunteers, they're trained, they're equipped, they're motivated. They show up. We had a call last night, structure fire call. I think we had 14 turnout, which is a great turnout for a structure fire, paid or volunteer for agencies our size. But we can't let that lax. We gotta keep supporting that side of the organization. Doing good work. New district organizational structure, I think that's gonna come up a little bit. I'll talk about that a little bit in a few minutes. Wildfire risk reduction program, we're gonna be looking at that. 2026 master training plan. I know that Chris is working on that, so in the next couple of weeks, we'll roll that out. I don't know whether you've ever had an opportunity to look at our training plan, but it is very complete. It's very detailed. We have training every Tuesday night, right? Plus, in the fall, the academy, the interior exterior academy. This spring, we're gonna be doing driver operators, right? So huge amount of stuff. Chris is teaching hazmat right now. Hazard materials operations, which if you like chemistry, you have a good time in that class, but if you like the rest of us, it's drudgery. We also identified the need for officer training for our lieutenants and our captains. And we're looking at some things to do in the spring with that, as well as moving it into the fall. Education on combination volunteer fire departments. That's something that I will be providing to you as well as our internal organization. Because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what is the combination department. Cooter Fire Authority has 250 paid employees, and they call themselves a combination department. Because they have a very small volunteer unit up at Redstone Canyon and one in Horsetooth. But they can call themselves a combination organization, as compared to a combination organization like us, that's got a very strong, large, traditional volunteer respond from home program with a small amount of career staff that supports our volunteers. So that ranges all the way. And I think that's important to the permanent fire chief. Because a lot of folks can say, oh, I have experience in combination departments. Well, they could be a combination department that's 99% paid and 1% volunteer. And I would guess that's not it. The same thing on volunteer organizations and how they evolve over time, especially if they were to evolve to a paid organization. And I think it's really important to say right here is that I've been associated with this organization for a long time. You know, I knew Dave Wolf and I knew Scott and, you know, people, and this is one of the standout volunteer organizations in the state out there. And there's really no reason to change that. If we were to add paid firefighters to replace our volunteers, it would be less service and higher costs. So I'm not exactly sure how that relationship works. But it's probably not a road we want to go down. At least anytime in any of the future that I can see. You know, if we were to triple or quadruple in population and we were 50,000, if we had some huge big developers come in and develop high-rise hotels and stuff like that, well, that's a whole different ballgame. But that's not what we have. So I think we're in pretty good shape there. Talking about resetting our culture a little bit, especially our internal culture, especially focusing on service. And a lot of that has to do with the turmoil we've had, you know, in the last year or so. Really reset that culture, providing support, whatever it is, support you guys need support. As far as from our staff organization or from our volunteers, we want to finish up our incomplete projects. We've had a number of things, just because people coming and going, stuff falls through the cracks. You know, it's not that anybody said, oh, we're not gonna do that, or we're not gonna finish that project, it just kind of falls through the cracks. So we gotta find all those, get those finished up and taken care of, so that we don't have to burden the next chief with those kind of projects. Plus, we all know that unfinished projects become a thorn in everybody's side. It causes morale problems and all kinds of other things, so we gotta take care of that. Want to take a look at our fire prevention programs. Right now, we have Stacy kind of carrying the load on that by herself. There's a lot of work to be done there. I know she's working on some big projects with the Stanley right now, that have some really complicated fire protection issues with them. Technical fire protection issues, systems, sprinkler systems, alarm systems, fire protection, construction, all kinds of stuff. Community outreach is a big one that I want to really focus on the next few months, getting out there, talking to the community, the service clubs. Patty graciously invited me to a business thing last week, which was nice. So thank you for that. We'll be doing more of that. We need to get our PIO and social media program going. Right now, that program is kind of pretty much not there. Next week, I am meeting with some of our auxiliary folks, and they have a person that might be interested in helping us with that. So I'm going to be talking to them next week to get that going. Yeah. And obviously, we need to do our 2025 annual report to really demonstrate what we did this year. Most fire departments do an annual report, and that then becomes kind of the face of the organization going forward. What did it do? How many of what did it cost? How were our people trained? All that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my plan. And we've already started. We're making progress on several of these already. And I expect that we're going to be making a lot more progress, as well as starting some of these over here. I know this one right here, the financial plan and full self-funding, is a hot topic. Probably need to get going on it earlier rather than later. But it might not be, you know, that might be a major project for your next chief. Which is another thing you need to think about when you hire a new chief, is they need to be able to at least know what those terms are, and how does that work? How do mill levies work? How do sales tax work? How do relationships with other jurisdictions work? One of the problems we have in the fire service is we all start as firefighters somewhere back in the dim past. Well, what do we do? What do we want to do when we're firefighters? We want to build fires. We want to do all kinds of exciting stuff. Most of us are all focused internally and internal operations. But when you get to be the chief, that's not your focus anymore. Your focus is external, relationships, budgeting, finance, diplomacy, relationships with other organizations. That's what fire chiefs do. And sometimes we have difficulties making that transition. And you may have experienced them. Any questions? Would you like to rearrange any of these or add to or subtract?
I think you've got a pretty good list. I don't think we need to add to it.
That's good, because I'd rather not.
I would just say that on the expansion of both Station 2 and Station 1, there's other areas that need to take in consideration. One is the property, on the properties, POR property, and they may have a lot to say about
Oh, absolutely.
expanding station here. The other is on Station 2 is it's already been approved to put on another bay on that station. Well, with the Park Service, when we originally had that first bay taken, so I'm assuming they still will recognize that what we had set down in paper to do that, so whether we want to do that or not, but that station really was just put in there as an ISO station to give the folks up in Windcliff a better ISO rating, so.
Okay. Do you want me to go into the other area as well?
Well, yes, I just think that one thing I'd like to say is first, it is such a breath of fresh air to have you here. To have someone so thoughtful who's gone through such a level of detail in such a short period of time and really come up with a very impressive plan to help us move forward. And so I want to thank you for that. I do want to give some consideration to the financial plan and full self-funding issue shifting maybe into the middle column. I know you're really busy, but I do know also that Mayor Hall is here, that this is an issue of some degree of concern and import, obviously for the town and also for us. And so just giving that some consideration a little earlier on might be something we could consider, if that's something that you think is feasible for you, given all the other things on your list.
We may not be able to come up with specific actions, but we may be able to get started conceptually.
That's what I'm
that might
thinking.
Look like.
Yeah,
I have done those projects before, so I am familiar with those
okay.
kind of things.
It's great to me.
Anything from our online folks?
Ryan or Jeff, do you have any questions or comments for Chief?
Well, it seems like a very thorough and thoughtful list. I appreciate all the effort you put into it, and no, I think it looks great. I think we've got some work ahead of us.
Yeah, we do. I just want to reiterate what Sandy said. It's just really great to have someone who is as competent as you obviously are, and looking ahead and showing us where we, what we need to be looking at. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. I wouldn't say competent, I would just say old.
You would
Been
say
through the school
competent.
of hard knocks on almost all of these items at one time or another. Do you want me to slide right into the?
Yes, please.
Okay, the other thing that Sandy asked me to talk about was how our organization, or how our district is organized. I've worked for a number of agencies, both cities and fire districts. So I'm pretty familiar with what standard organizations are for fire protection, public fire protection organizations. And what we have in place is pretty standard for what you would see in an organization our size. We have a large operations, emergency response organization, as it should be. That tends to be the very largest piece of any fire department or any fire district. Those are the folks that go to the calls and provide the service in the field. Usually somewhere between 90, maybe to 95% of the fire department is made up of operations folks. In our case, it's our traditional response from home volunteer system. We have about 45 volunteers now, plus or minus. We have 6 or 8 or 10 auxiliaries, and we have 2 paid staff members, our training officer, as well as our vacant operations chief. That's a big organization. That's a lot of people. It's no less intensive in complex, maybe even more complex with a volunteer organization than it is a paid organization. We have to support that organization. We have to make sure that we have enough people. We have to make sure that crew, trained people, all these different things that we do, they have to be equipped. They have to have uniforms. We have to have this great training program. There's no easy thing to maintain the training program we have. I know Chris spends all your time on that, pretty much. Taking it, and that's why it's so good. So our operations organization is pretty standard. And usually that is broken into what we call companies or what we call squads. And then they are managed usually or supervised by a mid-level group, which is usually a captain, which we have. We have 2 captains now, as well as a captain for training. You know, I think it's an open question of whether we need 3 captains or 6 lieutenants or whatever it is, but I think our operations folks can chew on that. I'm always concerned about what we call span of control, getting too many people reporting to one person. It just, you know, it's hard to get things done. So our operations organization is pretty good. And that's why I'm so concerned about making sure we fill that operations chief. Because if we don't fill that operations chief, then over time, things will start. We have great people, our captains are doing a great job, our lieutenants. But over time, if you don't have strong leadership presence, things will go down, and we can't take a chance of not happening. I heard, only about a month ago, one of these meetings, and we talked about crisis. And our volunteers got up and said, we're not in crisis because, we're responding to calls, we get a good turnout, and they were absolutely right. We may have some leadership and administrative and prevention and wildfire risk reduction issues that we're working through with all of our programs. But boy, if we had a drop off in our volunteer response, that would be a crisis. That would be a big deal. If we only had 20 volunteers, that would be a big deal. We couldn't provide the services at the same level we have now. We couldn't meet our ISO requirements. And that has a direct impact on what people pay for insurance, especially businesses. So that's a big deal. We have another group, which we call our support and fire prevention group. And that's a smaller group right now. It includes Stacy, and John leads that group, and Stacy, as well as our wildfire risk reduction folks, for which we have, you know, a vacancy there. And that's pretty common too. A lot of times we call that the fire prevention division or the fire marshal's office or something like that. And that's pretty common as well. And that usually has a manager, you know, usually at a chief level, not always, depending on how many people you have in it. So we have our 2 big functions that provide direct services to people. They're not staff support. They provide direct services to people. Then we have kind of an administrative support unit. And up until recently, we had 2 people. And we're doing this admin evaluation here, coming up here in the next 3 weeks. And that'll give us an idea where we are. Can we continue to do it with 1? Do we need to add 1 back? What levels should we add it back? How much contracting should we do for those kinds of things? So we'll get a good look at that. I do believe, just looking at our situation that we just recently went through, the person that was in charge of our administrative unit probably was a little higher in the organization and paid a little bit higher than other organizations like us. So I wouldn't suggest we replicate that again. But we'll look at that and see how that works. And also, until you get to a really big organization like Poudre or Loveland, you know, you really don't have to have a whole separate administrative division. You can have usually an administrative function, usually it's right under the chief. You know, you get into that size, I mean, Poudre's got a director of administrative services, I think Loveland does too. Now, cities is an interesting case, certainly the town. City fire departments don't have a lot of those administrative services because the city provides those. City provides HR, city provides finance, city provides legal, all those kind of things. So a lot of times in cities, the administrative function is much smaller. In a district or an authority, we have to have all that ourselves. We don't have anybody else to back up. So I think over the next, I think Sandy's gonna kick it off today with some discussion of organizational structure, but you know, I think we're right in the ballpark of where we need to be. Operations, emergency operations, the prevention organization, and an administrative organization, we're probably not quite as robust. Sometimes what I call it is mission creep. Sometimes you start doing one thing and next thing you know, you need something done, so you ask somebody else to do it, and then something else comes up. Next thing you know, you got somebody that's doing all kinds of stuff that may or may not have ever intended to do and maybe doesn't really fit under the role of administration. So that's, is that good enough for now?
That is,
Kind of
thank
gets
you, yes. And then
Okay.
unless any of the board members have questions, if they'd like to ask Chief on this subject, we will discuss, we'll raise it again and discuss it for discussion and action later, but. Jeff, Ryan, any questions?
No questions.
Nothing for me.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Okay, with
you,
that, I'll shut up.
thank you, Chief. All right, so I'm going to bring our work session now to a close. And I'm going to try to stay close to the microphone. I'm going to actually call the formal meeting to order. And we call it to order. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance and the roll call, so nothing has changed. I'm gonna move first to the approval of the agenda. I make one note for the board members that Chief Jones has requested that his report be done at the end of section 4 under reports instead of at the beginning. And with that change, unless, does anyone have any comments, questions, concerns about the agenda?
None.
And then with that change, could I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Who was that on Al that did that?
Ryan?
Yeah,
Ryan?
Ryan.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ryan. Do we have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Second by Jeff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carried. I'll turn now to public comment. Does anyone have any comment that they would like to raise? No? Okay, we will move on then to the items of business, starting with financial matters. The budget committee. Oh, thank you. I even have my glasses on. My keeper here is very helpful. Okay, so have you all had an opportunity to take a look at the minutes from the board meeting of October 27, 2025?
Yes.
Any questions, comments, changes?
No.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 27, 2025 board meeting, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 27, 2025 meeting as they were presented.
Thank you. Motion by Scott. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Hibby. May, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed, no. The motion carried. Now I will turn to the items of business. The first one being discussion action on the 2026 budget presented by the budget subcommittee that consists of our treasurer, Ryan Leahy, and our vice president, Scott Dorman, and Ben, who is on.
I am here. How are you?
Hi, Ben. All right, I will turn it over, I guess I'll turn it over to you, Ben, and you can tell your subcommittee, to the extent you need them to talk, what you want them to talk about.
Sounds lovely. Well, thank you, board chair members of the board. I hope you can all hear me okay. It sounds like you can, which is fantastic. I also have Stephen Rodriguez online from my team. He's going to share the PowerPoint here in a second. But a couple of things I wanted to go over. I'd sent out the budget, or it'd been sent out to the board. You have the budget detail, I believe, in front of you, which kind of gives an overview of the budget, kind of in the same format as what we had discussed when I'd first presented this draft to you. Since that point, we've made quite a lot of progress. We've had a lot of discussions. I really appreciate the chief and John working with myself and my team. As I think I pointed out last time, most of our analysis had been done. We just needed to spend some more time understanding the personnel side of the budget. So here in a second, I will get the PowerPoint pulled up. Before that, I just wanted to kind of give you a couple of assumptions that we've made in this budget that I think is important to understand as a board. So the personnel side of the budget, we decided to leave, if you will, status quo. There are some vacancies, as we know, in the current employee shell. But moving forward for next year's budget, we left those positions in the budget. Therefore, if you decide to move forward in December and to approve this budget, there will be some variances actual to budget until those vacancies are filled. But speaking with the chief, speaking with Ryan, we kind of had a pretty lengthy discussion about that, and we decided to leave it in. So wanted to point that out to the board to make sure you understood that. Let me see if I can. John, is Stephen requesting to share his screen?
Yes, he has already.
He has requested.
Yes, he has.
Okay, there you go. Perfect. Next slide, please, Stephen. So we got a whopping $7,000 in increased property tax revenue for next year's budget. We don't have the final certification from the county yet, so that may change depending on what our final assessed value is. I pointed out that we saw an increase in our assessed value, but it was 0.08%. So again, not a huge amount of an increase in our tax revenue. That may change in December, but more than likely it won't. We left both our sales tax and our 1A sales tax revenue the same as this year's current budget. I will tell you that I've spent quite a few hours kind of researching that information. Although we are currently trending behind from a budget perspective, that is down to timing on when we have received the tax revenue and when we are recording it. So I feel comfortable that we will meet the number that we have in this year's budget. That's why we left it the same. And then on non-tax revenue, we did see an increase, or are proposing an increase of just under 23,000. That is around an increase in investment income. We left grants unchanged and plan review unchanged. Next slide, please. So personnel expenses. As I pointed out prior to the PowerPoint, we did see a reduction when we did our budget. So we spent quite a lot of time with the chief and John understanding the difference between what was being budgeted in the shell that John has used historically and the shell that we have used. We did or are moving forward with our employee shell because it allows us to look at adding people, removing people, cost of living adjustments, step adjustments. It's a pretty interactive piece to the budget. We have not used that in this year's budget. We're kind of moving forward with what had been presented originally in the year. So again, all positions staying the same. And it does include a step for the people within the current organization, and those steps fall between 3 and 4%. So current staffing with a step, although there are some vacancies, those positions are going to remain in place. So then I've got on this PowerPoint, this is really straight from the document that I'd sent out to the board. And I'm going to go through each piece of our budget. I know the chief had kind of spoken about some of the goals moving forward. I'm excited to kind of take on some of these projects. We spend a lot of time looking at sustainability, projections for the future, and we're excited to kind of work with the chief and the board on that. I will note that we have worked on the chart of accounts. If you remember back a couple of months ago when we first started discussing this, the chart of accounts was pretty extensive and made it really difficult to see any trends. So if we go to the buildings and land, please, Stephen. So I've taken a screenshot of each of the pieces that you had sent out to you as a board, just from a philosophy perspective and how we got to these numbers. So you'll see that we have the actual spends here from 21, 22, 23, 24, year to date 25, and then annualized 25. We look at that and spend a lot of time comparing what we've spent to what has been requested by leadership. One thing I will note that's a little, or can be a little misleading, is the variance you see on the far right is 25 budget compared to 26 draft budget. It's important for the board to understand those variances, but it's really important to understand why there are such variances. So, for example, buildings and land, we've actually reduced year-over-year budget by 77,000. But when we look at the actual money spent, we've held pretty consistent. There are some variances in the buildings and land. For example, lease payments do throw some fluctuations in those expense categories. When we back those out, the 112,000 is pretty much right on average what we've spent over that period of time. So if you look at 2025, for example, our annualized is just over 105,000, although we budgeted 190,000. In 2026, we're proposing to be around the 112,000 for buildings and land. Any questions on the philosophy, the thoughts on buildings and land? If not, I'm going to just keep rolling through, but we wanted to kind of pause and see if there's any questions. Okay, marvelous. Stephen, if you go to vehicles and equipment, please. Vehicles and equipment, year over year from a budget perspective, we're actually seeing an increase of 25,788. That's down to us again looking at some of the historical data and operational requests. PPE is one of the major reasons for the variance. And just wanted to point out we've also backed fuel out. Fuel was hitting our vehicle maintenance because of where we were actually getting most of our fuel from. So you'll see that we have been spending money on fuel, even though historically it doesn't show it. So wanted to point out that. I'm sure you figured that bit out. But fuel is now being backed out, so we can track that. And we've also got an additional PPE for next year. I don't know, John, can you kind of chat about that from an operational standpoint?
Yeah, I think that was looking at the SCBA needs that we have and trying to budget for taking care of that problem.
Okay, perfect. Next one, please, Stephen. Communications and IT, small increase year over year, 9,872. What we're seeing here from a variance, really budget over budget, is our dispatch fees. And that's something, speaking with John and the chief, that is something that we're going to see, which is an increase in dispatch fees. Everything else is staying pretty consistent, like I said, based off of this year's budget, but most importantly, what we've spent historically. Travel and training. Travel and training, we saw a pretty significant variance of 94,000. Again, looking at what have we spent, what do we think we need moving forward. During the monthly report, I've pointed out to you as a board that we see some good variances, actual to expense, but we really wanted to try and get a lot closer to what we think we're going to spend next year. That's why we were able to reduce the budgeted amount. I know probably about 4 months ago, there was a comment made about contingency. I'm not a big believer in budgeting contingency in every line item. There were some items from an expense standpoint historically where we had contingency in there. That is the reason why we have reserves. That is why we want to make sure that we have a surplus that we can keep funding our reserves. But we don't necessarily want to build in a contingency line item. In this budget, we do not have contingency line items. We've looked at what we've spent historically, what we need moving forward, and that's what we're budgeting for. I think managerial is the last one, Stephen. So managerial, we did see an increase of 107,000. Over on the right, you can see where those variances are coming from. Grant expense is the major piece to that increase. That grant expense is at 90,000 because if you scroll to the top or look at the top of the page that was sent out to you, we have a grant revenue of 90,000. So when we typically do our budget, we want to balance our revenue and our expense. If it's grant or wildland, we want to make sure that we don't need the revenue to balance our budget. And therefore we have the same revenue as we do expense. So we did increase the grant expense again to match the revenue piece in the draft budget. Legal, we did increase based off what we've been spending historically. And then professional services, we did add, we added money for Chief Search and we added some budget for HR services. So those are the main increases that you see in the managerial year over year. And I think there's one last slide and then I will answer any questions. So you'll see the 114,000, the capital funding reserve. That's this year's budget that we're currently in. We currently have a surplus in our draft 2026 budget of 162,000. What we typically would do is we wait to see the final assessed value from the county, get final direction from the board, and if we were to pause right now, or we would have all of that information, we would move that 162,000 into capital funding reserves. To the chief's point, we would like early next year to start working towards a capital replacement plan, having discussions with you as a board to really understand what you need moving forward and making sure that we have the funding for that from a sustainability standpoint for the capital improvement plan. As the chief has kind of pointed out, as I'm kind of talking right now, we really wanted to make sure we got this budget completed given all the changes that have happened at the district. I feel very comfortable and confident with this budget, but there are still quite a few projects I'm excited to work on with you as a board. So I'll be quiet now and answer any questions you may have.
You want to, before going further, the budget committee, the last time they met, kind of identified some issues that need to be addressed before the next budget year. We go through, and that was, one of them was that our entire pay system has not been updated since 2022. So all the step systems, need to go back, we need to look at that, because my experience is, if you can do it every year, it's great. Most places can't do it every year, but try to do it every other year. We're already behind 40. So we need to go back and that. We already talked about the capital replacement. One thing that came up that I wasn't aware of was burn building inspection. That's pretty expensive, I guess, right? And that, are we overdue for that, or? Yeah, we're already overdue for it, so we've got to deal with that next year. Cost of the HR contract is already in, correct?
Yes.
Well, that's already in. I think board members are interested in talking about an A1 tracking system that explicitly tracks what the A1 revenue and the A1 expenses are.
1A, you need
1A. Yeah. I got A1. That's a
1A.
it's a big sauce, right?
Yeah.
But
You're making me hungry, chief.
yeah. And then also, I think Ryan's gonna talk about this later, is adding back in the volunteer EAP process, and we don't know what the cost of that's gonna be yet, but it's not much. And if you come up with any others, we will add them to the list.
Yeah, the 1A tracking is important to me, and the subcommittee on the EAP issue is of Ryan and I, and he will address that later. I think we believe that's gonna be around $3,000, give or take. So it's not a huge expense. Do we have any questions, Ben, on the board?
I do believe we had plans to separate out the 1A funds into its own budget, but with time constraints this year, I don't think that's going to happen. But moving forward, that we are going to work that into its separate budget.
Yeah, that's what I understood the 1A tracking to be about, but yes, that we really should be having a separate 1A budget and plan. That we track those funds, and we also have a separate budget.
Yeah, and just for clarity, we are tracking the 1A from an accounting perspective. So in the board report that I get to talk about here again in a second, you'll see that we are tracking that revenue and that expense. But from a budget perspective and the time constraints, we wanted to just make sure you had your total budget, so you could hopefully move forward and approve it, and we can get the tax rate into the county so we can get our tax revenue. But I think to Ryan's point, we would like next year to spend a little more time really separating that out from a budget perspective as well.
Yes, I agree. That's an important thing to do. And I agree that this year is just, we just do need to go forward the way we're going forward. But I'd like to see that for next year's budget myself. Any other questions that any board member has for Ben? All right, so we need to vote to approve this for the.
Approve the budget.
That's a public meeting, this is just a public meeting, you should discuss it, and then we still have time to discuss it. So the December 8th meeting is when we'll approve the budget, we have that scheduled already. This meeting is the public meeting for the budget to make sure that everybody has clarity on what the budget is going to contain and involve. Without any further questions, I'm going to move then to the approval of the paid bills. Ryan, would you like to address that, please?
We've just been working through the bills program. I believe we have Miranda dialed in and able to pay the bills now, which is nice. We've also updated her on all the accounts so she can see the accounts. I've made 2 transfers this year, this month, one for 100,000 and one for 40,000 to pay all the end of year bills. And I think that's about it. I believe that Chief is the interim chief is still approving the bills prior to me, and that Chief Sullivan will start doing that moving forward. So,
Yeah, we'll be starting that. We have a little hiccup with the email and phone number to get authorized and bill not paid, but Stacy and I are coordinating on that now. We'll get that fixed today.
okay, and to that we've had a couple of little hiccups with the accounts and the credit cards. Nothing major. It's just trying to get those dialed in to make sure that the right people are able to see the need to see it, and that Chief is able to make the adjustments and changes in credit cards that he needs to be able to authorize. So, but I think we've got those all authorized and dialed in moving forward. And then are we wanting to approve the bills paid and due?
Yes, we are.
Are those on the screen as of now, or have you guys reviewed those in the packet?
I have reviewed them. Has everybody, have all the board members had an opportunity to review them?
Yes, I reviewed it.
Sorry.
Does the public need to see it?
It's a good idea. I mean, if you could just go through them, Ryan, so that the people here in the room can also see them, and the meeting is also recorded, so that's something that's important as well. The public can see everything and.
Bringing those up in my board packet now. Let's see here. Well,
Hey Ryan, while you're trying to pull that up, do you want me to elaborate a little bit on the financials as well?
that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Board Chair, you okay if I do that?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, marvelous. So, in the packet, you have the October financials. As I kind of pointed out during my budget presentation, we have been falling behind or have been trending behind from a sales tax revenue all year. I spent quite a bit of time looking into why, and it is truly down to just timing of when we have it built in or when we're expecting you to receive that amount compared to when you're actually receiving it. So we're actually, from my projections, we're going to end the year right on from a sales tax perspective. In the month of October, we were actually nearly 5,000 over what we thought we were going to see from a budget perspective. We were also nearly 4,000 over in our property tax, and our sales tax 1A was just under 4,000 over where we budgeted. So for the month of October, the trend was good from a sales tax and a property tax revenue perspective compared to budget. I do expect in the months of November and December to also see that positive variance. And then from an expense standpoint, we were over budget in the month of October from an expense standpoint, but there was really only 2 items that was causing that, and that was personnel tied to the chief position. That was over budget, and then vehicle maintenance was 11,000 over budget. I wanted to point that out because I think it's an important point. The chief Warren had pointed out that we have to make sure we're putting money away to keep updating our fleet. I work with a lot of districts myself, around 40, and the districts that don't invest in their fleet, their vehicle maintenance gets out of control really quick. So that's why it's really important to make sure we have that capital replacement. Again, not something that you really have that I've seen since I've been with you, but for the month, it was pretty significantly over. And then actually year to date, the three things I wanted to point out that were over, there was some managerial costs, legal is over budget year to date. And then the other two items are maintenance is 26,000 over budget. And then we actually purchased a vehicle. So those three things are the things that are trending from an expense standpoint. But in totality, we're actually 260,000 under budget. So sorry, I didn't mean to kind of lengthen that out too much, but hopefully that helped add some information to the financial report.
That was
I
very helpful,
appreciate that.
thank you.
So just
Anyone-
looking at the distributed funds, we don't have a whole lot of anything out of normal here. We've paid back some. We've ordered some uniforms for people. We've also paid back. People get a uniform allowance for a certain amount, and we've paid them back. We've redistributed back to them. We have rent over at the other building. We have. See, I'm not seeing the exact amount for. Sorry, I'm trying to read through this report, and it's not the normal one I look at. And then, of course, paid wages, but nothing out of here, out of the ordinary. Does anybody have any questions about any of the disbursements that were made?
Oh,
With no questions, then I will entertain a motion to approve the paid bills as presented.
I'll make a motion. Approve the bills paid. As presented.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second the motion.
He's concerned because he had to be reimbursed for attending an SDA conference. That is not a conflict of interest. I think you're fine. There is one light item where he attended an SDA conference at everybody's request. And in fact, it was a very good thing. And he came back and reported on it. But that does not, we did not profit from the attendance at the SDA conference. We're not considered to be in conflict. So do we have a second for you? Thank you. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carried. All right, the next item on the agenda is a discussion and action regarding the potential acting division chief of operations position. Chief, I will turn it over to you to make your proposal about what you suggest ought to be done in terms of filling that position.
Yeah, I think thank you. I touched on that when I was talking a little while ago of how important that position is and how pivotal it is to maintaining the health of our operations side of the organization. I did talk to the captains, both Captain Spear and Captain Kearney and Captain Thomas, and asked them to look at that and bring us a recommendation of how we think we should seed. And they looked at several different options, and they have suggested that we replace that position. I think we have some differences of whether we can continue as a captain position or make it an acting chief officer position. My feeling is it should be an acting chief officer position. We'd like to move forward with that and get that position filled.
And is your recommendation that Captain Thomas be the person to fill that position?
Yes,
All right, and he would become a division chief, acting division chief in that position, correct? And he would be paid the same salary as that position is currently budgeted to be paid, correct?
he would be actually, I think we're budgeted at level 2, so it would be level 1. It'll be the first.
The first level, level 1.
Also, to go along with that, I would charge Chris and the other captains to look at how they would then fill the training officer position behind that, because I think that's important. Now, we don't want to lose momentum on training, because Chris has been doing a lot of that, even though in his role as the acting chief of that division, he'd be responsible for managing that. He's got to make sure that he has proper people in place to actually develop and conduct the training. And I, as far as I'm concerned, I would leave that with them to decide how they want to do that. Our the operations management team, we have some volunteers that are well qualified and well experienced that might be able fill that position as well as some others, so. I'd like to leave with them on that, but, Chris is teaching hazmat right now, which has probably got him pretty much, committed here for the next couple of weeks. When does that get him?
December 20th.
December 20th, so another 3 weeks, and then after that, we'll move into the new structure. I'm really excited about this because now we'll have, once they move people up into the training, and we have another proposal with something else as well. Then we'll have an operations team. And they can move forward as a team, which I think is pretty exciting.
All right, so I would like to say to you, Captain Thomas, I have heard nothing but wonderful things about you. I personally I've talked to Chief about this and talked to others about it, and think that you are quite a good choice for this position. That's my personal opinion. I would like to turn it to the rest of the board members to ask any questions they may have, or make any comments, or say any questions, concerns, any issues that they might want to raise.
No, I've known this for many years, and I remember when we first got on the department, and I think he's done an excellent job. I think he'd be a great choice for that. But I also think that it's Chief Jones's position to do that hiring or that appointment, and not the rules. So we give Chief Jones the authority to do that, and then he would do that.
Yeah, he had not, but we haven't authorized hiring anybody doing any hiring during this time period while he's the interim chief. So that's why during this interim period it's coming to the board. So that, since we're looking at reorganizing the department, we don't want anybody to be hiring positions that may or may not continue to exist.
Hiring wasn't the right word.
Yeah.
Promoting.
Or promoting or anything else, yeah, so until we've decided that. So I guess maybe the motion would be to continue for the board to continue to maintain that open position, and to authorize the chief to make an appointment to that position in the form of that he has proposed. Does that make sense to you?
Sure.
Okay, all right.
My question is this, is chief gonna move temporarily, or is this like
I heard
It's an
acting,
An
yeah.
acting role. I
Okay.
believe our personnel rules allow 6 months for an acting. Does that sound right? I think it allows for an out of class 6 months,
that's it.
which should coincide with the chief.
Correct. So, yeah, again, as I mentioned, we have not authorized any hiring or promotion or anything to take place for unfilled positions without our authority, given the circumstance we're in with the potential reorganization. So could Brian and Jeff, do either of you have any questions or anything you'd like to raise, any issues you'd like to raise?
No questions or issues.
So the motion I'd like to entertain would be a motion to authorize, to allow the position of Division Chief of Operations to be filled by interim Chief Jones in the manner that he has proposed, by promoting Captain Thomas to that position. Can I have that motion, please?
I'll present that motion.
May I have a second, please?
Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
All opposed, no. The motion carried. Congratulations, Chief Thomas. The next item on the agenda is is one that our board member Ryan Leahy has raised. Ryan, I'm going to turn it to you to introduce the topic of the potential creation of a temporary part-time operations manager position.
We've got some positions that are currently not filled, and as chief
Brian, I'm going to interrupt you for just 1 minute. Chief Landcamer, could you bring him up on the screen so we can all see him? All right, go ahead, Ryan. We can see you now.
We have some positions that are not filled, and as chief was explaining earlier today, that the operations is a very large organization and takes a lot of work. What I would propose is that since we have some money in the budget that is not being used for those personnel, I would like to see a temporary and part-time, maybe 20 hours a week. It's something for discussion, but Position to be filled in the ops department, not only to help run the ops department, it gives the chief an opportunity to rely on somebody in the ops department other than Chris Thomas, and that they would be compensated for that rather than just relying on a volunteer. The other thing it does is it gives the opportunity for one of our volunteers that already give all their time to work with the chief and maybe mentor under him so that we can capture some of his expertise and leadership as he when he moves on to be used in that position.
I'll recognize board member Hippie Smith.
I like Chief's idea of leaving that to the
Yeah,
people. to
I think
figure
when
out.
Ryan says chief, I think I would refer to Chris and the captains to figure out how to do that if that's a, rather than me.
I don't think it's a bad idea, I think, but I would like to see. Maybe you guys have already came up with a plan, I don't know. But if you haven't, I'd like to table that until they come up with a plan and then maybe move forward with that at our December 8th.
Yeah, the area I see that is obviously potential board action, requiring potential board action, which is why I included it in the agenda, is that as I understand it, we're seeking to create a position that doesn't currently exist, and therefore we would need to fund that.
Right.
And so, while I appreciate that we definitely would like to lead it to Division Chief Thomas. Have you been promoted already? Do I get to call you that? I'm just gonna do it. We do have to create the position, maybe what we're asking then is for Chief Jones and Division Chief Thomas to come back to us with a proposal for a position that they would like to create, if they would like to create one. Is that what I hear you say?
Yeah.
All right, all right.
This is.
That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay, so then we will not act on this now, but we will instruct you, Chief Jones, to work with, and you, Division Chief Thomas, to work together to decide whether and if whether to come back to us with what proposal you have with respect to a potential new position in this area, okay?
One of the areas I'd like to point out, one of the areas, and Ryan brought this up in the last week or so. One of the potential uses for this position is to take some of the administrative load off of Miranda, because she does a lot of support for training. And it's kind of half technical and half administrative, but that could be a help there. And as part of our administrative assessment we'll be doing the next couple of weeks.
Do you think that you both could have the time between now and December 8th return to us at the December 8th meeting with a proposal on this?
He's nodding.
All right, I saw a nod. I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay. All right, are we done with our discussion of item 3D here? I'm sorry, C. I should put my glasses on before I speak. I believe we are. Okay. The next item for discussion and or action is regarding the permanent chief hiring process and potential search firms. And that is to be brought to us by Chief Jones and the search committee comprised of Vice President Dorman and Board Member Smith, Hippie Smith. Board Member Hippie, yeah. So I will turn it over to you to.
Yeah, I think we had a good discussion today about how that process could go. And Chief has developed an RFP that we made a few small changes to. That was basically from the previous RFP that we had. And I think that it's a good document for us to send out, and we would recommend the board approving Chief Jones to send that document out tomorrow to get this process underway. And the process is to send it out to, would you have about a half a dozen or a dozen firms that it would go to, and then they would come back with their proposal from the RFP, and then we would whittle it down to.
I think our timing we talked about today, if we get this out tomorrow, And it looks like there are about 6 firms that I'm finding that are the common ones that are out there. And then have it out for 2 weeks. And then hopefully by the 3rd week in December, be able to make a selection, which then would start the clock and get the process rolling in January.
And you all have thoroughly reviewed and vetted the proposal, the RFP to be sent out, correct?
We have, and the one thing that we did want to make sure that was in there, and Chief Jones brought this up, is to make sure that there's emphasis on the volunteer side. That this person, who we're looking for is really going to be a good fit for our organization, so.
So do I hear you saying that you need
We need
an approval from us
For us
to
to
go ahead and
send.
send this out. I haven't seen it, but I'm going to rely on your skill, expertise and experience in this area. And so may I have a motion, please, to approve the transmission of an RFP to external sources by Chief Jones in the next couple of days in connection with the permanent chief hiring process.
I'll make that motion that you just said.
Okay, may I have a second to that motion, please?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no? Okay, the motion carried. All right, the next item for discussion is the subject, discussion or action regarding departmental organizational structure. As we've discussed several times today, we have been we obviously have some vacant positions. We need to look at whether all of these positions need to continue to exist or whether they need to exist in their current form. What does our organizational structure look like going forward? I don't believe the chief is in a position at this point to make a recommendation to us on that subject. And I do think he and I've had many, many conversations about this. I do think it might be best for us to appoint a subcommittee of the board to work with him to develop a plan for organizational structure and then to return to the board with that recommendation. Can I hear your thoughts on that subject, please?
Well, I think we definitely need to look at our organizational structure to see what's working and what isn't working and how we can improve. I mean, right now we're down to one administrative person and whether we need to put another person in and what that position should be. That I think is an important issue as far as the operations side. I think Chief has got that handled as far as right now of what we're gonna do, but we need to determine what we're gonna do in the future for permanent changing our policy if that needs to be done. So.
Yeah, and I neglected to mention, but we should also, this subcommittee would also work with our HR firm and our attorney to develop job descriptions that are commensurate with the various positions and that are updated and work given whatever changes we decide, if any, to make to the organizational structure. Does anyone have an objection to appointing a subcommittee of the board to do this?
No.
And I would like to recommend a couple of people. I would like to be on this committee myself, namely because I'm on the policy committee and rewriting things is my jam. When it comes to policies. And I've already been working with Chief Jones. He and I've had many detailed discussions on this. I'm a little concerned about the two of you being on it because you're also on the chief search committee and that's super busy. I'm about to go off of one subcommittee, but we haven't gotten to that topic yet, and Ryan is too. So my suggestion is I want the other person to be familiar with fire departments because obviously I'm not, and I think Chief Jones obviously is, but since you're busy, I'm thinking Ryan might be the logical choice. Anyway, that was my thinking, and so I throw that out there for discussion.
I second that.
I think that's a good idea.
Volunteered for another committee, didn't I?
Yeah.
Ryan, would you be willing to serve on this committee, subcommittee?
I'm okay with voluntold.
You said what?
Voluntold.
All right. May I have a motion to appoint a subcommittee of the board to work with Chief Jones on the organization of, or structuring of the department.
I'll make that motion.
And I'm gonna add to the motion and to redraft the job descriptions, the 700 policies.
Yes.
They're numbered in the 700s to go along with, the proposed reorganization, if there is one.
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second to that motion, please?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, no. All right, the motion carried. Chief Jones, there was under the subject of reorganization, we had talked a little bit about the subject of board support. You had raised this, we've been discussing this, and whether or not we need to maybe hire a temp or someone to provide some support to the board in terms of preparing minutes, making sure all of the board documents are properly cared for and stored, respond properly to Quora requests, those kinds of things. Act as secretary, which is probably, it's not the best idea for me to be doing it. I'm doing it temporarily because there's really no one else. But it would be better if we had somebody else to do that. So could you tell us what you think our needs are there?
Yeah, I think you hit on all the points of that. To support your board as far as taking minutes, publishing the notice, creating the board packet based on, the president's, direction. Court could also fit under that, but there's quite a package of things there that were done by a previous person here. And we're having some trouble getting it done now, mostly because Miranda is so overloaded. And one option might be to hire even a temporary service to help out with that for the next X time or whatever it is. I think we'll know more when we do the administrative evaluation here in a couple of weeks, but I certainly can, I don't know whether that's a 0.1 or a 0.25 or, of an FTE. But you certainly, as a board, deserve better support than we're providing right now. I mean, we're not doing as good a job as we could just because of time.
So it sounds like it might be best subject that we put on the agenda for the December 8th meeting for action. Because at that point, the consultant will have come in and given some advice on the subject.
I would suggest January. The consultant's coming in the third week of December. So I would suggest your January.
Can Miranda hang on until
We'll hang
January?
on.
Okay.
Fortunately, we're at a lower point of things going on, so we'll hang on until January. And I think that's a good point that I've worked with the assessor from CRS.
Is everyone in agreement with waiting until January to? Yes, sir. You have a question?
I am great.
Okay.
I have a question. Miranda, I keep hearing that she's overwhelmed, and I heard you say earlier there are things that were put in the office that maybe the office, is there stuff that we can take off of her plate that could go somewhere else?
Not right now. I mean, it's a pretty pure administrative function.
Okay.
Can't really let it go to operations or fire, I mean, it's a pure administrative function.
I don't mean that part of it. I mean, is there something else that she is taking care of currently that we could put somewhere else?
I would say let's wait till we do the administrative assessment.
Okay,
It's just 3 weeks away.
okay.
And I want to take this opportunity to say that I've been incredibly impressed with the job Miranda has been doing, because she stepped into a role that she really had zero experience with and has done a very impressive job. And I know she's not here to hear the praise, but she's really working hard and doing the best. So I just want to.
I would like to second that, working with her, doing the bills. Her attitude has been very good, and her stepping into the role. I've been very impressed with her efforts that she's put forward and the pace at which she's learning the things that need to be done. So I'd like to second what Sandy said.
everyone commented, and I agree with those as far as what Miranda's doing, but, on the annual report, the 2025 annual report, that's gonna take a lot of administrative work to put that together. And I don't think we should be asking Miranda to do that. Is that something you can ask maybe the captains to work on?
Haven't gotten that far yet, but we'll make that happen. It's, there's some data in there, there's obviously pictures, a lot of it's got operations data, there's some fire prevention data in it. There's certainly some wildland project data in it. I'm pretty confident that we can get that done.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll spearhead that myself.
All right, so moving on to the next item, discussion / action resolution concerning COLA custodian designation. I'm going to turn that issue to be introduced over to Chief Jones.
Yeah, thank you. We found we had a quarter request last week. And it wasn't a big one. It was a fire report. It wasn't anything.
I want to correct it. It's Cora.
Cora.
Okay, we had
Colorado
COLA.
Cora,
Okay.
Colorado Open Records.
No, I know that, but we, up there and down here, we had it with an L, so that's why.
Oh, no, that COLA, that's different.
It's cost of living.
That's
Okay.
part of it.
Okay,
That's
all
part-
right, so we're talking about a Cora custodian designation, we're not referring to
No,
that
no.
issue. Okay, that I just wanted
What we
to clarify.
found was we're dealing with one, and we said, oh, we'll follow the policy. And we opened up the policy and it showed an ex-employee as our custodian. So we had to change that. So we sent this to our attorney, the attorney redrafted it, I haven't provided for him. So it's just a change from Erica's name to fire chief as a custodian for request.
Yes, and I have seen the resolution and reviewed it. I understand from our attorney that she prepared it and has thoroughly vetted it as well.
Yeah, she drafted it.
Does anyone have any question concerning have you all reviewed the resolution?
You know, look at, but I don't have it with me, so.
It's in the board book. Oh, here.
But if you can read the resolution.
You want me to read the whole
Well, not the whole thing, but as far as the resolution number and all of that for us.
Yeah, I can do that. Do you want to look at it on?
I've heard it.
Okay, all right.
I
I can read it if you want.
I can do it. All right, so I am going to call for a vote on for the approval of the Essex Valley Fire Protection District Resolution number 2025-04, designating the official custodian of records and adopting a policy on responding to open records requests. And you can see that full policy on the screen before us here. It's also part of the board book, which you all had an opportunity to review.
If you scroll to the next page, can you scroll to the next page? Yep. Thank you. And it says the fire chief or interim fire chief of the district is hereby designated. That's the only change.
So this way we don't have it specific to a person, we have it specific to a position.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2025-04.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
So motion by board member Treasurer Leahy and second by board member Robbins. All in favor say aye, please. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carried and the resolution is adopted. All right, the next item on our agenda relates to EAP, the EAP subcommittee recommendation regarding offering EAP to our volunteers. Ryan, I told you this, I believe. I
Yes.
didn't. You can yell at me later. Would you please introduce this subject for the board and the public, please?
EAP stands for the Employee Assistance Program. It is currently included in the paid staff's benefits. Historically, it was offered to all of the volunteers, until a few years ago it was taken out. I'm not sure exact details of why it was taken out or the process it was used to take out. We do have a couple of options when it comes to mental health or any type of counseling for the firefighters. They have peer support, which is great. The different folks in the fire department get training to do peer support. So if you have a call or something, it's nice to be able to go to your fellow firefighters and maybe check in with them after a hard call, or if you see that they may be distressed. We also have the option of going to Dr. Teresa Richards in town, and she is a local psychiatrist that can help out with any type of concerns. Or one issue that I find with just having a local psychiatrist available is that oftentimes they're very involved in the community, and so they're known very well. EAP gives the opportunity for somebody to call in, find a provider off of the list that may not be involved in the community or known personally, for people to seek different issues or seek help for different issues that they may have, whether it be just needing someone to talk to, substance abuse, just basic mental health issues. And I think that that would be a good thing to bring back and give to the volunteers again. We ask our volunteers to do some things that are very much trauma based, and I think that we should give them all of the support we can in that.
I would agree with Ryan on that. I think I don't understand why it was ever removed, but I think that you have to look at what organization is going to be taking over this and how many sessions that are available to each person. You know, sometimes they'll say you only can come to us for 3 sessions or whatever. And I have no idea on the cost of what this would be, but it's something that's very important.
This was brought up to me. When this was brought up to me, I reached out to one of my captains. And if he's willing to speak on his thoughts on EAP, I would open the floor to the captain.
I believe we have heard that he's referring to you.
No pressure, Dustin.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Ryan. I think for me, I'll be honest, I've used the EAP several times, whether it's through the fire district or through the town. The town offers this to their employees. It was I believe 5 counseling sessions that I was able to go through. I was going through a really rough time in life, and I think that EAP really helped me, like, just recenter, right? Not to discredit our peer support team, because they do a great job, but I think that peer support is like right after a call, or if we're having a critical incident debrief where, you know, they come in and Brian's one of those guys. It's not as easy to go to somebody that you're volunteering with to talk about personal things that are going on, whether it's marriage, mental health, or any of those things. And even with the local psychiatrist, Dr. Teresa, she's lovely lady, but it's weird having somebody local, right? The EAP offers people that are not in Estes Park, you can do it by the phone. And I think having that benefit for our volunteers that see things that most people should never see, having that opportunity to talk to people. And nowadays there's a lot of people working through the EAP that are just trained for first responders. And I think that's an awesome opportunity and a benefit for all of us to be able to have that conversation with somebody other than somebody local that we might see in the coffee shop, right? And not that that's bad, but having that relationship with somebody that you don't know it's easier to have that conversation. And I think EAPs are a great thing.
And I agree. And I don't think it matters if you're a paid person or a volunteer person. That benefit should be there for both.
Right.
So Ryan expressed the recommendation of our subcommittee that he and I are on, and worked with the chief on, in terms of what we think needs to happen. It sounds like the board agrees. What I would propose, obviously the chief has a certain level of financial authority on his own. So I guess we ought to just ask you to go and start the process of activating this again. To the extent it exceeds your authority, financial authority, you would need to come back to us for that authority. But we also, I believe, do we have this in the budget? Somebody on the budget subcommittee, I don't believe I saw it on the budget. We may want to add a line item for that. So let's put a placeholder in for that.
We did put a placeholder in the budget for EAP just in case. We did not put it in because we had not discussed it as a board, but we did put a placeholder in there to add it in.
Is there an amount? An amount in the?
There's not currently an amount.
I think our 5-year average from 5 years, 2022, which is last year, I think it was about $3,500 a year. A 5-year average.
Okay, so maybe we should put in maybe 5,000 a year just to be on the safe side for in the budget. And then you can return to us. Obviously, if there's something that is dramatically different or you need authorization because it exceeds your authority, your financial authority, then we can address it at that time. Does that work for everybody?
That's good.
Danny, I'd like to share a thought if it's appropriate.
It is absolutely fine. Please do so.
I'm also a captain, not the one Ryan was referring to. Being a member of the peer support team for the last handful of years, I'd say it definitely has its place. But I don't want you to see the EAP so narrow-mindedly either. Because it's not just mental health services that are offered. It's financial counseling, it's also legal counseling. So it's not just the mental and emotional stuff. There are more practical things. If you're having issues with home budgeting, there are avenues in the EAP that allow for that. And that's something that the peer support and our in-house counselor don't cover. I didn't want that part to get missed. It's not adding more to what we already have. It's something more but different.
Well, that's really good to know, and I really appreciate you clarifying that for us. It just makes it all the more relevant, important that we get this put in place as soon as possible. Thank you. All right, so any further questions or discussion on the issue of EAP? All right, so I'll turn now to the reports. Again, I'm just going to remind everybody, we decided to take these in a little bit of a different order. And so far as Chief Jones's report will be at the end. So we'll start with Division Chief Landhammer.
All right. For the prevention division, the wildland risk reduction educator Logan Leslie's completed 197 home assessments and 17 neighborhood assessments year to date. That number continues to grow. He did present last week to the Big Thompson Watershed Health Partnership. I called it a HIZ 101, so Home Emission Zone 101. They requested it and we lifted it up here and he presented. He did a wonderful job doing that. He's also presented at 11 HOA annual meetings so far this year. Mitigation crew participated in the Front Country Prescribed Fire last week in Rocky Mountain National Park. They're joined by a couple of our volunteers as well over the 2 days of active prescribed fire. Members that participated were Alicia Paddock, Xavier Matthews, Kelly Brenner, Randy Rapola, and Logan Wesley. So I thank them for their efforts to learn and to support our neighbors in the federal Park Service. Captain Sutherland is working on plan review experience, providing comments for multiple projects coming up, such as Stanley Hotel projects, multiple solar panel projects, new single-family homes, and short-term rental applications. At the last Regional Fire Marshal Association meeting, which was Friday. There's discussion about new fire codes in the state regarding food trucks. The state is trying to come up with an inspection standard and reporting system that all agencies will have access to. Captain Sutherland is also continuing inspections as needed, mostly on new construction, special events. Also working with the Estes Events Complex on a new event coming next month, as well as the other large winter events to ensure safety and code requirements are met. She appreciates the relationships that have been built with the event coordinators and continued collaboration. Captain Sutherland is also back to leading the peer support team and will be assessing needs for next year's academy, since we were just talking about that. I've been working on, along with Captain Sutherland, I'm part of the technical advisory committee for the town of Estes Park Development Code rewrite. they've been having meetings ongoing, so we'll just continue those conversations as they make progress. We'll keep you updated. Again, we're staying involved so we can help hopefully steer some of the landscaping requirements in the development code, make sure it's in line with the new resiliency code that's coming as well. Still working on finalizing agreements between all parties to get the CWDG Thunder Mountain project going. Trying to finalize the details with the Larimer County Sheriff's Department Emergency Services Wildland Crew. They have committed 20 acres of that 200-acre project. So we're trying to get them boots on the ground. I'll be working, once they get that resolved, I'll be working on an RFP for the larger portion of the project next. Also working on grant implementation and management for 2003 COSWAT grant, 2022 FR Furworm grant, FRWRM, and the 2003 CWD Thunder Mountain project. I'm also submitted another grant proposal for another COSWAT grant just last week. I submitted that. We'll know in December. That would be for work to be done 2026 and 27. Wildfire Ready Action Plan is complete. Big Thompson Watershed Health Partnership have been the driving, and along with Peaks to People Water Fund, been the driving force in getting that document prepared. They're awaiting final approval from the federal government before they release it, but that will be coming shortly. I am participating in the 2025 hazard mitigation plan update. They're updating the 2021 hazard mitigation plan. So I'm doing this in conjunction with Chief Stewart, who is our emergency manager for our area, along with Larimer County's actually driving the bus on that project. Had our first meeting of our woody biomass task force last week. So I'm working with again, Larimer County Office of Emergency Management, as well as Larimer County Solid Waste Director, Dwayne Penny, looking at ways we can improve processing of the woody biomass is generated from wildfire mitigation plans. It's a big piece of that puzzle. To be successful, we got to know what we're going to do with all the material. So that'll be ongoing for the foreseeable future. And again, that strategy committee report has been completed and presented. It's on their website, or if you just Google Larimer County woody biomass, you will bring up their website and you can get all the information that came from that report if you're curious. And again, Chief already mentioned, we'll be down tomorrow morning when Larimer County presents or talks to the Larimer County Board of Commissioners, Larimer County Office of Emergency Management, about the CWDG grant that has been awarded $9.8 million. For station and apparatus, the annual SBA flow testing and regulator testing was completed in early November. No, completes my report. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Division Chief Landcameron? All right, Chief, who is going to be reporting on operations and training division?
am.
Chief Thomas. You already have a report?
I do. With training, we finished up Firefighter 1 Academy. Completed, was very successful, had a successful graduation ceremony at the YMCA. Thank you to Sandy for representing the board and speaking. Also, thank you to Chief Jones addressing the membership. Like, hi, I just got here, but you guys are awesome already. So that was excellent. Also, thanks to Chief Landcamer, kind of helping the stage keep moving. There's a lot of little bits and pieces and with all the different people, so I really appreciated that. And since Mayor Gary Hall's here, I just also wanted to say thank you for being there to present to our students. It really means a lot for all the board members, other than Sandy, who were also there, but department members who were also there, just showing the support of these students who've invested a huge amount of their life into just this initial training. So it's awesome and super encouraging to see that strong show of support. Like has been mentioned, I started hazmat awareness and operations classes last Thursday. And it will be each Thursday and Saturday, except this week, until December 20th. We have 8 students representing Allens Park, Glen Haven, Pinewood Springs, and Estes Park. So very similar. Jamestown, I have the Jamestown chief actually is in our class as well. So exciting for me and not for anyone else. It is very dry and, I have a kind of a silly sense of humor, so I can usually keep people conscious breathing and relatively alert for most of the class. I feel like it's been a very successful class. This is my 6th year, I think, teaching it. So, as far as other Tuesday trainings, we just finished up our live fire trainings. And now we're entering into what I would call a smorgasbord to finish the year. We did some CPR training for some people who were due to be CPR renewed. Chief Jones did a leadership session, kind of, hey, this is what an interim does. This is what you guys should be thinking and questions you should be asking about bringing in a full-time chief who fits the community, our organization, and all that stuff. We got hazmat refresher coming up. Again, that is definitely my flavor of hazmat refresher. And I specifically focus on local hazards so that we at least have the education on where those are potential and what we do with that. I do have the training calendar for 2026 roughed out. I have not put it out yet. I've been talking with the captains a little bit. Right now I'm scheduling with partner agencies, so I don't put it out to like the membership yet until I know that I have my DFPC test scheduled. I have a location for the pack test, a location for the swim test, the event center parking lot for driver training. So that is what I'm doing right now. I'm waiting for some emails and some information back. But some kind of cool stuff that we haven't ever trained on since I've been here, doing a light and power training next year. They're pretty excited about that. So we are also having an instructor 1 class. I alternate that with firefighter 2 and instructor 1. I did put out like a interest email and actually had a really phenomenal response to that. So we'll be putting that out there. That will be in springtime. And that'll be open to outside agencies as well. For me, it's important to make sure we have enough internal people who are interested. Because I love offering it to our partner agencies, but I want to make sure it's also benefiting us here in Estes. And we're going to have our 2nd driver academy. Captain Spear kind of spearheaded that, no pun intended, this year. And it's a great way. It's a smaller group, but it is more driver specific training. We've kind of had different ways over the years. And this is kind of our newest and greatest. And the drivers that we're turning out of this are very confident and competent drivers. So I'm excited for this 2nd year. Then the 1st year of anything is always a little bit, how's this going to go? What is it going to look like? But we have a pretty solid plan, and we're going to do that again also. As far as operations, again, up until 20 minutes ago, I was just the training guy, but I have been working on some operations stuff. And I know you guys are aware of our SCBA bottles are due to be hydrostatically tested. 21 of the 63 have already been tested as of today. I found a place and we're able to drop them off and on Monday, and then we picked them up Thursday. So technically those bottles are only out of district for a few days in the middle of the week. That being said, 2 more weeks of testing. So we're off this week, and then the next 2 weeks, we'll have all of our frontline like bottles serviced and up to par. Also on that vein, I do want to throw a huge thanks to the auxiliary members because I sent an email to Jack and said, I need drivers to drive inanimate objects to Greeley and back. And I think it was an hour and a half later, all the dates were filled. So super thrilled. They've been doing that, but not only that, they've also been filling them because we empty them out to bring them down to get tested. They disassemble them and do their thing with them, but they send them back empty. So the auxiliary has also been filling the bottles when they get back. So that's huge, huge, huge. Also, I did talk with Captain Kearney. Auxiliary falls underneath him, and I just wanted to make sure that I was okay to say this. But the auxiliary has really been engaged lately, doing some awesome stuff with event prep for our membership. They were here. We had like decorations. Okay, that's like we got plastic tables usually, but we had decorations. and pumpkins and things at our Thanksgiving. And that would not have happened without auxiliary. But also, in addition to that response rehab, we had that wildland fire up off of Hell's Canyon. And when we rolled into the station, there were auxiliaries with hoses, ready to clean the hoses that we used on scene, and food and all the things. So just huge kudos to auxiliary. I know they've kind of been, we've been figuring out what they can do. And they've been doing some super awesome stuff, and I'm really thankful for them and the way they've been engaging lately. Happy for any questions.
Any questions for Division Chief
I have
Thomas?
one question,
Yes, sir.
Chief Thomas, do you have aerial operations training scheduled at all for the aerial, the ladder truck?
At this point, we don't have a specific aerial operations training yet. It is kind of the pinnacle of your engineering experience here at Estes. I would say it's our most expensive rig, and it's our fewest people can drive it. So we have had the conversation with the Engineer Academy about how to do that. And that might almost be, I don't know a better way to explain it, like the Firefighter 2 version of being an engineer. So once getting through the initial Engineer Academy, we have had discussions, so we'll see if that develops this year, to be able to get some more people doing that as well. But great question.
I have
Any
a
other
question.
questions? Go ahead.
So, some months ago, it was brought up that the membership fit testing was way behind. So, since you've talked about SEBAs, is that being worked on, or is it, I would hope that that's at the, one of your priorities to get that done.
That's a great question, Jeff. I am familiar with the questions at hand. I am vaguely familiar with the policy that we have in place currently. And as of 20 minutes ago, I don't have a specific plan for that. I know where the fit test machine is. I know that it's about $40 to test each member if we have a company come to do it. So it is exceptionally more cost effective with the machine that we already own. It's about $800 and some to get the machine calibrated, which needs to happen each year, plus $200 in shipping. So we'll call it $1,000. But I have not sat down and made a plan for that yet. I know that the last time we were in compliance, actually, no, I don't, because I don't know that we ever have been since the policy was written. I know I have a record of maybe 10 people being fit tested since the policy came out, and I have no other records prior to that. Those are just the facts that I know. But I have already thought about that. We have an auxiliary member who will be taking on that project. She's very excited. I've given her the user's manual for it. So that part is being worked on. But I assume I'll probably get in cahoots with Chief Jones. We'll look at our policy and either comply with it or revamp it. And then we'll give you an update on that as soon as I know something. I wouldn't expect anything on that, Jeff, until after the first of the year for sure.
Great. Yeah, I think it's a priority because it's a pretty serious OSHA violation to not have that in place.
Gotcha. Understood.
Any other questions for Chief Thomas? Volunteer Captain Kearney.
Good evening. I ran some numbers to date on fire calls. I'm new to running reports on First Due, so I'm dangerous enough to get in there and start to figure it out, but not mess it up, I hope. So year to date, we've run 752 calls, which is higher than last year by over 100 calls already. Like I said, I was fumbling through First Due to try to run the reports. Very minimal training on this, so it's something that Rick and I are going to get better at, so we can give you guys more detail on all the calls that we are running. So right now, false alarms, we're at 161 calls a year. Fires 26, good intent calls 171. Hazardous conditions 79, rescue and EMS 263, which is always the highest number of calls that we run, EMS calls. Ruptures or explosions are 2, service calls 45, and special incidents 5. I can't tell you exactly what those special incident ones are. It's however, in the NIFRS, the report system, whatever they chose, populated that thing. So that brings up 172 calls for the year. By month, for this year, I was able to pull officer only calls. So for November, we ran 13 officer only calls, 27 full fire page calls, giving us a total of 40 calls for November, and it's not over yet. And I'm not sure, there's still some outstanding reports for November that haven't been completed, so I'm not sure if those fall into that number as well. I too would like to throw Real Bones Auxiliary, because they've been rock stars. I think they've been helping out as much as they can, and I'm super eager to learn more and come in and help us whenever. The fun part is going to the call, doing the work, and then coming back here and having to put the rigs back in service and clean hose. Most of us have to go to jobs, so to have them come in and support us has been a lot of help for us. I think that's all I have to report on. Did we ever get training hours? Okay. Next month, we'll make sure we have total training hours for the year and total calls for you guys as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Captain Kearney? Well, I just want to thank you for all the hard work. You've been amazing.
Thanks. I will add serious calls that we've had in the last couple of weeks. No fires that I'm aware of, but we did have a couple of CPR calls, and some one of them was a good turnout of people, and they were able to get pulses back on one of the patients, which is unusual, but it's what we strive for, and with the help of EMS and our volunteers, paid staff. So it's a notable call.
Congratulations. Let's see. Chief Lancamer, I just want to thank you. Great report. And also thank you for sitting here and handling our meeting today. You're doing a great job. I really appreciate it.
You know, I had fired myself from this job before, so.
Okay, well, don't do
Don't
that, but yes.
Okay.
Chief Jones.
So I'll just kind of back clean up here. A lot of stuff has been mentioned, and I wrote it down, and then I crossed it out, thought, oh, that's covered. So kudos to all of our staff and all of our folks that are involved here. A couple things I want to mention real quick. Justin mentioned the potential CPR save. If that turns out to be a CPR save, we'll do something with that as far as promoting that, because not only was it the efforts of our people, the paramedics, there was a police officer involved with that. There was also citizen CPR by employees of Safeway. So a good thing. So we're following that to see what happens. So Justin, thank you for highlighting that. I do want to thank all the folks that were involved in our budget process, certainly the budget committee, board members, especially John. John has done tremendous work on this and really picked up the ball on making sure this budget process is put together. As we go through this reorganization process, I'm going to be working especially with John and Chris specifically, and talk about how we can balance some of the duties across the two larger divisions. John's doing an awful lot that supports directly operations, and I think we'll move some of those things over to operations, so John can spend more time on managing. You heard the list, a laundry list of stuff that he's been doing, so it's a big deal. We talked tonight quite a bit about at least some interim support for administration, certainly filling the vacant operations chief role. We talked about some other support for operations in administration. I fully expect that I'll be back to talk to you in the next couple of months about more support for our fire prevention operations. They have some significant needs as well. And they have a loss of a position. And a lot of the work that John is picking up doing right now was work that our wildfire program coordinator had done, and we need to talk about that. And see how we can get that, because, you know, we've had deficits across our organization that we're plugging that. And we've done several of them already, but I will come back and talk about fire prevention here over the next couple of months. There was mention of Logan's class that he did. I think John mentioned that. I saw that last week. That was the best hazard ignition zone training I have ever seen. And I've seen a lot of it. As a matter of fact, I asked him to make sure to get with Chief Thomas and make sure we get that training to our line folks. Because it's important for our line folks to understand mitigation fact, and we're not talking so much mitigation as much as home hardening that he does. And it's important for all of us to understand how we can safeguard our homes. All of us, and I have that where I live right now. I got stuff on the roof. I got to get up and take off. So that was really good. You know, the leadership that we've been part of, especially John, has been part of as far as all this wildland risk reduction, which what we're doing now is just the tip of the iceberg of what's going to need to be done in the future. And I'm really happy to see that we are a leadership role. So I thank everybody that's involved with that. Other than that, that's all I've got. I'm really impressed with the organization, the work that's been done. Really looking forward to moving forward on some of these other projects and getting rolling. And wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Jones? All right, the next item of business, just old business. We have been talking for a while now about scheduling a working session to discuss requirements of the Colorado Open Meetings Act and the Colorado Open Records Act. And I would like to get that on your calendars for February if possible. So if everybody could look at their calendars for February, maybe we could do it an hour before the actual February board meeting. Which would be, I believe, February 23rd. Yeah, let me look.
Good then.
Good. Yes, it's the 23rd. So we would start at 3:30 on Monday, the 23rd. Does everyone have that open? Is that okay? Ryan, Jeff?
Looks like I have it open.
Jeff?
How soon or how far before the meeting would you like to meet? Is it an hour and a half?
You know what? Actually, let's do 3 o'clock. I think an hour and a half is
3
gonna be better. 3 o'clock on the 23rd. Does that change anything for you, Scott?
Yeah, that works for me. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, so everybody's okay at 3 o'clock on the 23rd, except I haven't heard from Hippie yet. You're good? All right, so, the February 23rd, 2025 board meeting will start at 3 o'clock with a 1.5 hour working session, which is going to be a sort of training on COMA and Colorado Open Meeting Act and Colorado Open Records Act, which I will lead. I might bring someone else in as well. But I will talk to you, Chief, about that. We can discuss how we want to proceed with that. Any other discussion to be had on the working session, Open Meetings Act? and Open Records Act. All right, does any board member have any new business to raise? All right, then our next regularly scheduled board meeting is going to be, well, it's not exactly regularly scheduled, but our next board meeting is going to be to approve the budget and other items, obviously on December 8th, 2025 at 4:30 p.m. I assume that's on all of your calendars. And may I, unless there's any further discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
President.
Yes.
What do you want to do about your regularly scheduled assembly? Usually have that.
Okay, you're right. The regularly scheduled December meeting would, I think, fall on 2 days before Christmas Eve or something. And so my proposal is that we hold our regularly scheduled meeting on December 8th, and then we then adjourn until our next regularly scheduled meeting in January. Is that acceptable to everybody?
I'm good with it.
Okay. All right, so, and then of course, we'll reiterate that at the next board meeting on December 8th, which is when I was gonna raise, I was just gonna raise it at the December 8th, meeting. But let's, unless anybody has any objection, we'll meet at December 8th and then again at our next regularly scheduled meeting in January.
That, Sandy, the December 8th, what are the times of that? Is it just right, 4:30 to whatever?
4:30 till whenever we finish, right? Okay. Any other issues anyone wants to raise before we adjourn? And may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
Motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.